The creative talents and writing of Richard Andrew Olkins, the Olkinus Network, audiobooks, poetry, spoken word, paranormal investigation, a creative baptism for every day. Find us on Spreaker.com and Amazon.com.
Okay, I am coming on as Joseph Vivaldi, and I am going to plug two things. One, an audiobook that is going to come out in November sometime. It is called A Soul Warrior's Journey. This is my very first paperback, and good things are ahead. I mean, Andrew Garrett is working on it, and it should be very good. And it's about Joseph Woods, who has addiction problems, who bumps into Matthias Anderson, who helps him out with his addiction problems, and also unlocks some of his dreams, which entail future. And also, I'd like to plug the Journal of the Dreamscapes, which is one of the channels shows by Joseph Vivaldi featuring Ricky as co-host. And the show features dream journals, dream interpretation, and dream analysis. It's a very good show to check out. And one more thing that I gotta plug is the Ricky and Wolfman show. For those who've been watching Back to the Future, 1 had its analysis, and Ricky and Wolfman went over it, and Back to the Future 2, the analysis of that is coming November and December. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun watching those classics, and you can put them on your screen and watch them along with us and dig on what we're saying. We got an old school take, and those other shows are fun too, man. Check them out.
Now, Ricky.
Yeah.
You were mentioning in the beginning of the show, beginning of the podcast,
yes,
about the CD and Sony. Could you please elaborate? That's a very interesting topic.
Yeah, I've always thought so. So there's a thing that a lot of people don't realize. Compact discs, CDs, I mean, they were being used, to my understanding, since the early 70s for computing. They weren't mainstream because laser science is the big deal. CDs use a lot of power because they have moving parts, there's a motor and a laser and whatnot. And that was part of where I'm going with this. The other part I'm going with this is there was a format called MP1. Now, you're aware of MP3 and MP4.
Oh, yeah.
Well, those are successive iterations of what was originally called MP1. Now, MP1, I don't know if it happened in the early 80s, but it happened around the time of the big computer boom, where you had Apples and Commodores. Now, you could play a sound file on your computer on what was called an MP1 file.
Yeah.
Now, they were giant files because memory was very small.
Yeah.
And at first, you wouldn't be able to do a lot with that. But they dashed the industry, the MP1 industry, because they knew the inevitable of what it meant. When you have something like a record, now, the music industry began with what they called albums. All right, albums, like a photo album, there was a musical album because it represents a segment of time.
Yeah.
Photos represent a particular age or an event. Same thing with an album. Now, they were putting albums on vinyl records. CDs came after 8-tracks. Again, we're dealing with a singularity. But CDs, the thing that vinyl records had that 8-tracks didn't, 8-tracks were re-recordable.
Yeah.
Let's bear this in mind. CDs, when they were first issued, were not re-recordable.
No, as a matter of fact, from what I remember with the CDs,
yes,
you could just play through the CD, they were not re-recordable unless they had CDs that were able to be re-recorded on a computer, but you couldn't record over the CD.
It took them a long time to figure out how to make re-recordable CDs for a commercial market, and to my understanding, it was never done officially by a corporation. To my understanding, it was done by some hacker. But for all I know, that could be some mummer's tale or some sort of, urban legend, quote unquote. The thing that I'm going to say, though, is when you have an 8-track that's rewritable, you can go to the store and buy an 8-track, and you could record from one to another and make a copy. And when you record that copy, it's free.
Kind of like how the cassette.
That was a step that was missing. We went straight from 8-track to CD, but it said that the first commercial CD player came out on this day in 1982. 1982 is pretty far back. I mean, 8-tracks were still going on. Cassettes were a parallel market.
That's about 36 years ago.
It's quite a while ago, and it's beyond obsolete now because no one knows what 8-tracks are. Cassettes are a mystery to kids today, and I remember making mixtapes when I was a kid. Now CDs are starting to go obsolete, where you don't even see a lot of those anymore. You can see on my shelves here in the Okanut Studios where we're recording this podcast, you can see we have plenty of CDs in here.
And I have some cassettes still at my house.
I have cassettes, but very, very few, because I haven't owned a cassette player in years. Now, here's the thing about an MP1 that they knew. Computers weren't going to be going away. When you have a console video game system, they control the cartridge and they control the console. Now, same thing with the CD. When you have a format that is frozen, they control the CD player, what it does. They control the CD, what product you get. However, if you have an MP1, yes, like a giant cleaver, this however falls. If you have an MP1 format, your computer you own today can play it. The computer you buy 2 years ago can play it. 2 years later can play it. The computer you buy 10 years later can play it. Because the format would go ahead. And they wouldn't get their money. So as soon as they saw the MP1, they did everything within their power to smash it down. Because they knew that they would lose all the money from 1982 all the way to Napster. And you remember Napster.
Oh, let me explain about Napster. They could download whatever they wanted.
Yes.
Any song you wanted, they could download.
Yes.
And the thing is,
because we had shareable files.
What happened?
MP2 or MP3.
What happened? And I will repeat. Talc came around.
Yeah.
Got upset.
They sure did.
And they said,
All in a China shop.
We're not getting paid for our work and everything else. So that stopped the sharing. Then Steve Jobs said, hey, I have an MP3 that is called an iPod. It's going to have music on it, and you get paid for it.
Yes, and his iTunes was certainly, if not the first, then one of the first that started to do that. The point is it caught on in a big way because of the Apple Corporation's success. However, it represented the gloving of the MP3 format into a control software. Now, this is the correlation, this is the parallel with the automotive industry.
But before you do that, I want to mention this invention of a website called YouTube, which had videos of everything, which means you could watch the videos you want from a long time ago with that music on. Just saying that.
Okay. Well, what YouTube did was YouTube took your home video, and I don't mean VHS. The way I mean VHS, but they were already starting to get some visual stuff when YouTube was coming up. You could take a home camcorder or a digital camera and take your home videos and make your own America's Funniest Home Video on YouTube. Originally, it was just a cable show that was on cable television where you saw people's videos that they mailed to VHS, they mailed a copy of. But you basically took that show and turned it into an exploding inevitable, where now any video can be uploaded onto YouTube from all over the internet.
And singers, musicians, anybody else could actually profit off those videos through advertisement for sales, and also they could go viral with advertisements.
Yes, well, that goes down an even deeper rabbit hole of e-commerce and the concept of the economic internet, which is a whole other branch of the singularity that's beyond this. It has implications with both YouTube and MP3 files. But getting back to the automotive angle, you can build an automobile on a website now. You can tell them what options you want. Now imagine that you had mass production for low models, but you also had a place where you can build your own custom automobile, and that's what that corporation was for. In other words, you design every bit of it, and it comes off like you want it to, instead of, now, there's aerodynamic questions, there's engineering limitations, etc., etc. There's things that you wouldn't be able to do. But the point is that the automobile is significantly taken out of the hands of the owner, the purchaser. There's a lot you don't have a say over. When it comes to safety, that's not a problem, but certain elements of engineering, I know mechanics, and they've told me various things. When you have a corporation that has executive control over the engineering, you have no say in how ridiculous that engineering is. And they engineer obsolescence into cars. They have failure that's engineered into cars where they have things that are timed to go at a certain point. And the point is it leads us to the industry we have today, which is comparable to MP1. MP1 was in the interest of the consumer. The automobile industry of today, it's hard to say really if it's in the interest of the consumer. As the cars grow more electronic, more digital, they're almost like devices. Because your car has Bluetooth, some of them are hotspots, some of them have internet. So they're becoming more and more technological as far as the internet is concerned, which of course assists in all of the apps and tracking both known and unknown. But now we get to the point of, would Henry Ford be able to understand where his industry went in a century plus? Where now we're so far down the line that we have cars, and beyond Ford, there are luxury cars that are, it's getting to the point now where they're saying they're going to be making self-driving cars.
Wow.
Now, they're years off yet, but right around the corner, because a lot of people would always say, well, how would you ever have music in a car? They put record players in early cars, but that, when you bounce on the road, you can't have a record player in a car.
Yeah.
So eventually they came up with, playable cassettes, and now you have internet in the car, and now you have this, and now you have that. So what will tomorrow's car look like?
Yeah.
Now, is it in the interest of the consumer? I don't know. Would Henry Ford even care about the consumer? I don't know. If he's the typical industrialist, probably not.
Speaking on the future a little bit, and considering this show is Spiritus Holographica, I want to leave the show with this note. And then we can do plugs. My dad was mentioning to me today that the upcoming phones